You know, I saw this number, it surprised me. Today's just the 36th day in office for the new mayor of New York City. Now, he's had a whole lot of snow to deal with, de Blasio has. He's pressed Albany on the pre-K funding fight, and now he's taken on a new fight, St. Patty's Day parade. De Blasio says he will become the first mayor in more than 20 years to miss the parade because organizers continue to prohibit gay groups from taking part. And here was his quote. "I simply disagree with the organizers of that parade in their exclusion of some individuals in the city, though the mayor will allow cops to march in full uniform if they so choose." Well, the reaction, as you'd expect, the head of the Catholic League said he's smiling. Bill Donahue saying, quote, "delighted to avoid marching alongside a public official who does not want to be associated with Irish Catholics." I'm not sure that's exactly what the mayor had to say here, but nonetheless, Dominic, politically, the right move by de Blasio?
Yes, Democrats have taken this position. If you're going to exclude gay groups, then we, for the most part, are meaning the mayors, are not going to march. You have to remember, Christine Quinn, the former Speaker of the City Council, she made her political career in terms of the opposition to this parade and engaging in civil disobedience. So this is a move that plays well to Mr. de Blasio's base. He really had no choice.
Yeah, he had to. He had to avoid the parade. I mean, if he went to the parade, everybody would be wondering if he's leaving the progressive, label behind because now he's in office. He was almost boxed into this in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and is this going to play out in other parades too? It's not just the big one. Is this playing out in other parades? Do you march? Do you not march? Does it get tricky? I can see from that. Let's move on. All right. Now, I want to talk dollars and cents, and you guys putting a face on this one for me. Bottom lines in finances for counties, for example, like Westchester and other municipalities. Governor's made it clear. He's going to have tax cuts, okay? And you're the perfect person to talk to on this one, Shelley, when you look at Yonkers. Even the storm. You talk to mayors, and I'm hearing this from folks, from mayors in the tri-state area, they're saying, we're running low on supplies on salt, on sand, and people say, oh yeah, they go, our budget's already tapped, and it's the first week of February. They're worried because they're on razor-thin budgets. Now, the public doesn't want to hear that, but when on top of that, the governor is talking about cutting taxes and obviously cutting revenue to the municipalities, you're hearing from nervous mayors all the time, right?
Absolutely, and ironically, I understand the desire to keep property tax low, both as a political and as a real issue for those, like in our county, where it's such a disincentive to keeping people here. That being said, the other tax cuts that he's proposed, the corporate tax cut, the estate tax change, that take revenue out, I'm very concerned about the consequences, not just for Yonkers, but for every city. For example, in Yonkers, we now have a likely hole in our school budget of maybe $40 million, on top of what we thought we have. And we already don't have, as you may know, we don't have full-day pre-K, we don't have guidance counselors, we don't have art and music, we don't have teams, we don't have clubs.
You've already cut the fat. You're into bone now, right?
We're under the bone. We're under the bone. So we really can't do without less revenue. And we can't tax our people more because it's on the property tax side. And we haven't gone above the cap. So I think this understandable political desire to cut income tax and other taxes really has grave consequences for the cities and municipalities. I'm very, very concerned about it.
Now, you deal a lot with the business communities. For example, in the county, you say, hey, there's a disincentive to try and relocate businesses here, to retain businesses and everything else. We like what the governor's selling here. This is a way to keep them in the Empire State and in the Golden Apple, right?
We are the worst. We are 50 out of 50 states, and we'd be 51 if they came up with another one in terms of the business community and corporate tax, estate tax, sales tax, property tax, income tax, and the like. I humbly disagree. Taxes are like water. It finds its lowest level. If you raise the estate tax limit from the $1 million to a lifetime exemption of 2 or 3, which they're proposing, you're going to keep people from fleeing away, and you're going to keep people here paying income tax and remaining residents. If you cut corporate tax to a level that's appropriate and fair, you're going to both attract and keep businesses. The key is finding that marginal point, finding the point at which you've maximized your revenue and you've maximized your benefit. And it's far above my pay grade to know where that is. But the fact it's on the table, I think, is a good thing. Whether, in fact, however, there's a $2 billion to spend is a question that only the legislature and the governor can really examine. We mere mortals down here hope that there's a positive. We're hearing some things that maybe there's a bit of a game. That's really a 2-year outlier, and they're kind of trying to monetize it today for 2 years from now. I don't know.
So you don't need any more money from Albany? Westchester doesn't need any more money?
Once we determine if that's the amount, of course we do. In fact, I was just up at NISAC. What the Association of Counties wants is the easiest administratively and cost-effective wise is simply take Medicaid off. Take a piece of Medicaid. They've capped Medicaid. It's $220 million of real estate tax here. If you eat 10% of that, so $22 million of Westchester and everybody else around the state from a county basis is now absorbed by the state. That's $22 million that we could return in tax cuts to allay property tax or qualitative benefits, but give us the opportunity to expend those dollars on behalf of or give those back to the taxpayers.
Mike, where's he going to get that money if he's...
Well, is it real? That's the first thing.
No, but I mean, I don't disagree with you. If we can find ways to minimize the county's Medicaid burden, I'm all for it. That goes to my point, though. This is not a time to be taking revenues out of the general fund and giving them back. We're still recovering from recession. The county is still suffering. The cities are suffering. I don't see how we're going to give an additional tax break to our corporate friends. They're going to have to stick with us.
It just seems to me from the outside, and you guys are much closer to it, that the net consequence of what's happening is take the Bronxvilles are going to do better and the Yonkers are going to do worse. I'm picking neighboring towns. Or the Scarsdales and Ryes are okay, but then the Mount Vernons and the Yonkers and the rest that don't have property tax bases, right, to support this, it's that old dirty word of the unfunded mandates and stuff. You got to put the kids in school. You got to keep them out of trouble. You got to keep the police funded. You got all the rest. And they rely more on Albany than we realize in many ways. What do they do then? Isn't that the dirty little secret here, is that you're going to create a bigger gap in the have and have-nots of the city?
Well, except we give it to our good delegation. They do a great job for us of dragging down every penny for school aid, whether it be an urban school district or a more suburban school district. So our legislative delegation understands that and really does a great job fighting for us. The question first is, do we have money to finally invest and expend? And then we can have this healthy debate on. I mean, the counter to that is if you cut some of those taxes, but you then keep and retain and attract, you're then going to have in very short order more revenue, not less. Find that marginal point. Again, above my pay grade to know where that is, but when you're the 50th out of 50 states in business in terms of the overall burden and the attraction of business, it just makes sense that you're going to go to another state, in fact, to participate. Cutting sometimes does allow you for some growth. Where that point is, I don't know.
Oh, is that a tax policy foundation stand 50th out of 50?
Yeah.
Okay, that's an anti-tax group?
Yeah, it really is.
Well,
I'm
It's
just
a
pointing
questionable
out
number.
the
It was at NISAC. No, when we got the material the other day from an objective, the New York State Association of Counties and their research people. And when you add up again the corporate, the estate, the income, the property, the sales, and all the rest, again, whether we're 50th or 49th or wherever you want to be, we're clearly not in an environment that is attractive. And I recognize as a Democrat that there are burdens and there are investments that we need to make in human capital and other capital. But at the same time, you got to come up with this tax strategy in its total portfolio that makes the most sense.
But I really do think that's at a moment when the economy is rebounding enough that you have the opportunity to do so. And I think you can make a regional point, which the governor has done very well, that Western New York, which continues to suffer disproportionately to us, may need a different tax strategy.
Sure.
But to say that for Westchester, Putnam, Dutchess, Rockland, where we're struggling along back in the right direction, but our municipalities, 50% of our money in Yonkers comes from the state, just the plain aid to municipalities. And we need that, we didn't have sand and soil today. I can only say since I was plowed at 4:30. There was no plows earlier in the city of Yonkers, at least on my part. And these cities are not going to make it, they really are at a bit of a breaking point. And I don't think it's a moment for tax breaks for everyone.
And as we go to break, Dominic, it's going to keep playing out here because
Oh,
you got a governor.
it really doesn't matter, no offense, what the city's needs are. It's an election year. The governor needs to get reelected, so you push tax cuts. Sorry, that's the bottom line.
And you got to
election year
devil in
politics.
the details. Is it this year? Is it next year? Is it the year after?
Cut property taxes. A lot of people in the county want it. We are number one in the country.
But you say
And
you
that's
can win
certainly
without a
true.
tax cut, but it's just what Christie did. It's about running the score up.
Exactly.
All right. Up next here, we switch gears. He's got more goodbyes than the departure terminal at JFK, but this time, Leno, he really means it, or NBC really means it. And as he goes, is the face of late night TV changing as well? We're going to get into that. Michael Musto after this.